And that's what humans are.
Yep.
At their core, humans are hobbits. They're beautiful people. They've been screwed around with. They have been screwed around with. We get blamed for the pollution. Why is there pollution of oil? Because the powers that be have seen to it that we're using a lot of oil. You know, why are there nuclear power problems? Well, the powers that be brought that on. It's not your average people that brought that sort of crap on. And yet we get blamed for it. We get told, stop driving your SUV. You know, this is such nonsense. First of all, we can control with our minds how much damage or good an SUV can do, and we just have to put our heads to that. And secondly, you know, one volcano goes off, and it's like, you know, a billion SUVs have been driven down the road, and they're going off all over the place right now. So it's this is largely a creation, and what we've got to do is take back the creation and make it into something beautiful. Bring back health to Mother Earth. Bring back health to humanity. I think we'll see a wonderful planet if the powers that be get out of the way.
Oh, that's true.
Nothing will be perfect. Nothing will be perfect. There will always be people who screw up here and there. No matter what the system, there will always be some screw-ups. But it'll be a heck of a lot better than it is now. There'll be opportunities, and that's what people need.
They've been suppressing so much for technology, and that would make things so much, you know, life so much more.
Now, last week, Ben Fulford, you both know who he is, right?
Yes.
Okay, Ben Fulford. I've been watching him, and not everything he says happens, but he apparently does have this relationship with Forbes magazine, with the Rockefellers, and with Japan. And he is talking about various good things coming to a head. And one of the things he said, and he was very upset, he was crying when he said it, they put the video on. He said that Japan, the reason Japan was hit with that wave, that was no wave from an earthquake. That was wave from a nuclear bomb underneath the ledge, which Japan is right on the edge of, one of the Pacific plates. And there had been submarines had been seen there for weeks before. On top of that, the nuclear power plants that are sitting there were built by General Electric. It was built by a company that's owned by General Electric. And, of course, the Rockefellers own General Electric. They were 30 feet too low, lower than they should have been, considering that they know that waves come in there.
Purposely.
Yes, absolutely purposely. and on top of that, the reason that wave came through is because the Japanese, very wisely, were refusing to work with the Federal Reserve.
Yep. Perfect.
They were refusing to sell out their country.
Okay.
So they got punished. Now, the story is they've been threatened with more punishment. They have been threatened that if they don't turn around and do what they're told, another wave is going to hit them. This frightens me because Edgar Cayce said that 90% of Japan would go into the sea.
He did. Yep.
He did. In his Earth Changes prediction. Now, that bothers me because when I read that as a kid, I assumed it was going to be a natural event, Mother Earth doing something. Now I'm convinced it's going to be the powers that be knocking Japan off the face of the Earth.
Yep.
And that's horrifying.
Yep. No, that's what's happening. No, you're right.
Yeah. But on top of that, Japan apparently has responded and said, if you do that, we will knock that volcano in the Canary Islands into the Atlantic and take out your entire Atlantic seaboard.
Yep.
And that's something that's supposed to go too.
That would not be hard to do.
I'm learning that these earth changes that Cayce talked about were not something that was going to be natural, as I always thought it was going to be due to a magnetic polar change. Apparently it's going to be because certain people's egos need to be, rubbed. And certain people need to be in control. You ever wonder why the hell a person needs to control another person's life? and get your own life. I mean, who really wants to control other people? Right. What kind of a nut wants to control other people?
Understatement.
Sociopath.
You said it right.
Yeah. And it's just insane. But this is what seems to be happening. So I'm watching Japan now and watching the Canary Islands, and all I can say is if you have beachfront property in New Jersey, you probably ought to get rid of it fast. Because when the Channel 13 does a show called Mega Tsunami, and they said when that wave, and they expect it to happen someday when that volcano slides into the Atlantic, they said when that wave rolls across the Atlantic, when it hits the Atlantic seaboard, it will still be 400 feet high, and it will take out every city from Boston to Miami.
Wow.
And everyone, so you can get the video, by the way, on eBay or elsewhere. It's called Mega Tsunami. Regular tsunamis are only about 30, 40 feet high. They come because of earthquakes, but the weight of the water keeps the wave down to like 30 or 40 feet. But these mega tsunami are when something crashes into the water and causes a 1,500, 2,000 foot high wave.
Yep.
And it has to travel across the ocean, but when it gets to the shore, it's still very high. And how many pictures have you seen in the last several years, just pictures here and there, of a city with huge waves coming at it? I've seen them all over the place. And we've seen movies with that theme. So I think they're preparing us. This is what we intend.
Oh, for sure.
And they always give you an advance warning. They do that. I was just going
to say that you said that earlier, and I wholeheartedly believe that. I know that for a fact.
So we have to. So people have to start. The only way to get out of this, as I can see it, is either to have alien help and hope that the aliens we're seeing are not just thought forms based on what's going on, but are real beings, real 3D beings. Like ourselves, but from another place, and hope that there's some help there, or we have to manifest our way out of this. And you do that positively by creating something beautiful. And getting beyond whatever they've done, create something beautiful.
That's as real as it gets.
It's a real shift of consciousness.
Yeah, and it's very difficult when you're living through a period of time when so many people are suffering.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And they shouldn't be. There's no reason for all this suffering. And of course, your conservatives blame it on laziness, and your liberals blame it on conservatives. They're stealing everything. No, they're not. There are more rich liberals than there are conservatives these days. They're operating in their own self-interest too. That's not bad. But on the other hand, as I said, charity is good, and most people I know would agree with that. It's just government charity. Most government charity goes to itself. And so a friend who now happens to be, he used to be a libertarian, now he's more of a conservative, but he's in Congress, was in Czechoslovakia in '68 when the Russians rolled in. And he saw a student holding a sign. And it was a swirl from the center. It circled out and out and out and out until the circle got bigger and bigger. And in the center, it said government. And then as it started out, it said grows to meet the needs of a growing government, grows to meet the needs of a growing government, grows to meet the needs of a growing government, grows to meet the needs. And it was getting bigger and bigger and bigger, just like government. And it's true. Ralph always says that one of the biggest mistakes they made was with what is it called? It used to be back in the 1800s when a president took power, he brought all of his cronies into the White House, into Washington. And they all worked with him for 4 years or 8 years, and they all ripped off everything they could. And then he would leave office, and his cronies would leave with him, and the new presidential thief would come in, and his cronies would come in, and they'd do the same thing. They'd take advantage of the situation, and then they'd leave. And people said, this is terrible, this is terrible. We hear all these scandals of these people ripping off the taxpayers. Well, they weren't taxpayers then, but the system. And they said, something has to be done. So they created civil service. Big mistake, because what happened was the president came in. He hired all of his cronies. He leaves office, but his cronies still have jobs under civil service. The next person coming in can't fire them. So the next person coming in says, well, I got to work with his cronies, but I got to find space for mine. So a new department is created so that his cronies can be hired. And this goes on and on and on until you've got all these different people living off the system and not really giving anything to it, because the only work, teachers don't pay taxes. Bureaucrats don't pay taxes because all of their money comes from taxes. The fact that they give a little back is irrelevant. They could just pay less in the beginning. I mean, they could just get paid a little less in the beginning and save some bookkeeping. They're not doing what is called productive work. I'm not saying what they're doing is bad work or not work that somebody might want to pay for. But productive work is when you produce an item and it sells in the marketplace. In the 19th century, this country was loaded with production because government kept to the side. In the 20th century, for part of it, we still had that wonderful rise in production because government kept to the side. It wasn't until, we got all this involvement that things got bad.
Right.
And it's very difficult to turn that kind of a system around. It usually has to collapse.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they've been doing, actually. On one level, they want it to collapse because they want to bring about their one world government under their control.
Exactly.
And the only way to do that is just to destroy this one. And what easier way to destroy it? I mean, when you see some of the laws being perpetrated out there and some of the things people get away with, you think, what the heck is going on? Where are the brains? And but it's on purpose. It's all set up. It's deliberate.
All planned.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep.
I do think that we can get around it. I do think that these people are going to have to learn a lesson. I do think, though, that things are going to be crazy, certainly with the manifestations going on. I do think we're going to see severe earth changes. I wouldn't want to be on the West Coast or too close to the ocean on the East Coast. I really am concerned about Philadelphia because I love Philly. I love the historic center in Philly. And I love walking there and wish all the restaurant supply houses would leave a kind of Williamsburg-type area of colonial history there. And absolutely love that place. Love sitting in the wonderful church there, and everything has a different smell, a different flavor, and I just love it. And I'm very concerned that when that wave comes across, it's going to go not just over South Jersey, which is nothing but a sandbar, but it's going to go right back up that Delaware River and flood Philadelphia terribly. And I hope they can save some of those wonderful old things.
I forget who the guest was that we had on fairly recently that was saying that excuse me, that it's not good to live anywhere near a coastline.
Yeah. So it's one of these things where we're up in the Northwest in New Jersey, and it's not really a joke, but I have joked that we'll have to learn how to make saltwater taffy because we're upland. We're in the foothills of the Appalachians, and I just hope that enough people can wake up and help turn things around. I know a lot of people are working hard on it. A lot of people are becoming aware of what's really happening. A lot of people aren't. I get email from both sides of the political spectrum, and then there's the libertarian side. And, of course, the powers that be who own both political parties. I get so sick of hearing, are you a Republican or a Democrat? They're the same thing. They own both sides of the party, and they're going to offer us up likely Hillary, who is owned on the one side, and either Romney or Jeb on the other side, and they're both horrible. And so hopefully people will wake up this election and en masse vote third party, because if only a percentage of them vote third party, they'll play with the numbers in the boxes. They're just computers,
right,
and they can change the numbers. And they'll tell us who we voted for instead of finding out who we voted for. But if there is a big enough, massive enough move not to vote Republican or Democrat, there's not much they're going to be able to do about that, because it'll be too obvious that they played with things.
Exactly.
So
that's why
that's an important move for people to consider. And of course, you've got to see a future with a wonderful president. Don't put in a face, because you can't control other people, but just know that the future president is a wonderful being who is turning things around. If I were to put a face on him, it would be Ron Paul. But I'm going to leave it clear. I'm not so sure about his son, but I hope he's straightened out. He's not his father.
No, we're not. None of us are sure about Rand Paul. None of us like Rand Paul, so we
on the other hand, Rand may be protecting himself from the Mossad, because they're very powerful in this country, and
he knows it's stupid. He's not stupid. He knows what's going on.
If he comes out too strongly, like his father, he may find himself, at the bottom of the Atlantic.
Yeah, he's fucked. Yeah, no, you're right. If he does,
he may be playing it safe. I don't know. I would hope he's more of a libertarian than.
Right. No, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. That's the thing. We have no idea what he's doing. He might have a plan. He might actually have a plan.
Yeah,
and,
that would be nice.
Yeah, so if he really has a plan and he's doing that, I commend him for that.
Right.
But we don't know. So we just, it's hard to judge him on that. So that's why I'm kind of sitting back. I mean,
Another little thing here, I have a note of something I wanted to mention, and that is there have been rumors for years that one of the things the powers that be intends to do in order to control humanity is fake an alien invasion. The powers that be are very good at holographs. Aside from the fact that we live in one, they're very good at creating holograms and inserting them into history. And
Exactly.
There was a joke about, they were going to have a hologram of Allah and Jesus and Buddha all coming back at the same time and saying, you must live in peace. We now need a one-world religion to go with a one-world government. And there was even a story that somewhere up in the Caucasus, the Cascades, rather, up in north of Seattle, up north that area, that they were practicing making holograms in the sky, and that apparently they did one of Jesus, but it didn't quite turn out right. The lasers were aimed wrong, and one arm was hanging funny, and apparently nobody drives in that area, but some guy was, and he was laughing about it and writing it up. And allegedly they're going to create, all they have to do is, the aliens that they're working with fly in a few ships, and then they put holograms up in the sky of thousands of ships and tell the people in this country and the world, we're being invaded, we all have to work together, we need a one-world government. And the average dummy would, say, oh my God, we've got to all work together on this, we've got to come together, as and they'd have their one-world government already set up. Now, one of the things that makes me think they might be planning this, is that they have made it illegal to shine a laser pen up into the sky. A man in Parsippany, New Jersey, about 4 years ago got fined and got in a lot of trouble, and they made a big deal of it, to the point that I thought, this is just a setup. They just made this up and put it in the papers and on TV to make sure that people obey. But basically he claimed he was out showing the stars to his daughter, and he used a laser pointer. And they said, this messes up the planes. It screws up their instruments. I am sorry. I have a real difficult time believing a laser pointer is going to screw up a 747. But I do think if there was a hologram of a 747 going up over my house and I sent a laser pointer at it, I'll bet you it would show itself to be a fake in seconds. I'll bet you the laser would make it obvious that it was a hologram and not a real plane. And I think that's why they have outlawed pointing lasers to the sky. And we're talking laser pens, laser pointers. We're not talking about big laser guns.
Right, right.
And so I have a feeling like if you see thousands of UFOs coming in at you, get out your laser pointer and check it out and see if they're real. I have a feeling, and this is just a gut instinct, but I've been right many times about this sort of thing, so check it out.
Yeah, that's really...
There's a lot they have planned for us, but I don't think they're going to get away with it because humanity, these people are not terribly smart. They really aren't. They have depended so long on affecting humanity, and then humanity does the actual creative work and the manifestation, and they sit back and eat the caviar. And they have been doing this for so long that they're so inbred that they're not producing very bright children. I mean, you look at the royal families on this planet, and you listen to their children, and they're dumb.
Mm-hmm.
These are kids that would not do well that in a situation where they weren't so fawned over and protected. I look at George W. There walks wisdom, huh? And Obama. I mean, and yet people voted for instance, Obama. And, when people criticize Obama, I say, there isn't a dime's worth of difference between him and George W. or George Sr. George Sr., I think, pulls the strings on both of them. He controls both of them. But they're criticizing him for things, and I don't think he even knows what he's doing. And, of course, now there's the story.
Well, he's certainly not in charge.
Yeah, of course not. When they say the president is the most powerful man on earth, I crack up. Sure, right.
I do, too. I laugh my ass off when I hear that, yeah.
Yeah, he's a good servant. He does what he's told.
Perfect servant. Perfect.
Yeah.
He's a great speaker, and you're right.
Mm-hmm.
You're right.
Read through the teleprompter.
So we live in exciting times, and we'll have to see what happens. And I'm just waiting. All this rumor. I mean, I feel sorry for Joan Rivers because I believe she got offed because she went public with what's all over the internet, and that is that the president is gay and Michelle is a tranny.
Transvestite.
Weird.
Yeah, and
how you speak about that and all. Yeah,
I frankly don't care, okay? It's like libertarians are saying, well, who cares? This is their private life. Who cares? Well, I don't care except for one thing. It shows the extent the CIA will go to get us to vote for their person.
Mm-hmm.
They literally had to make them look like they're supposed to look to get the middle class to vote for them. And that kind of dishonesty bothers me.
Yep.
Right.
In a libertarian society, I wouldn't care if he was shtucking his goat if the goat agreed to it.
Right.
But it has to be consensual. Has to be consensual. Yes. And I don't care what Michelle is. And but the fact is, the fact that they would go this far to play these games with us, that's what's wacko.
I think it's way more important what they're doing and the fact that they're bombing, and drones.
But remember, if it weren't for the Patriot Act, they wouldn't get away with what they're doing.
Oh, absolutely. No, I absolutely.
And that went through, and only a few people voted against it.
Mhm.
Kucinich, Ron Paul, and what was the name of that wonderful woman from the South? They got her out of office.
Cynthia McKinney.
Yes.
McKinney.
Yes.
Yeah, McKinney.
Beautiful woman. I disagree with her economic evaluations, but everything else, I think she's beautiful.
Yep.
It's amazing.
And
Ron Paul, her, Dennis Kucinich or whatever. It was not very.
Kucinich and Paul used to get together on a lot of things, and in fact, Ron Paul has this new organization, and Kucinich is on his board.
Yep. Yep.
And he's a good man. I just hope that allegedly the military is very upset with what's going on too, and hopefully they'll come to our aid and
hopefully. See, we're sitting here like, we don't know though.
It's hard because the powers that be have such huge weapons now, and if they are sprinkling this poison across the country,
and going underground.
Yeah, and going underground.
They could have been doing that to lower our immune systems just to make Ebola more effective.
Yeah. Oh, that's the other thing. There's also the possibility, and some people have suggested this, and that is that they did this with the bird flu, only it didn't work for them. It backfired. But that is that they scare you about the disease,
right.
and then they offer you the vaccination with a live virus in it.
Here's the thing that
and that's when the real problems begin.
All the people at the CDC at the press conference had purple ties on, and every last representative during the last week, they've all been wearing purple ties. And the vaccination that is supposedly in the making right now, it has a purple bottle. It comes in a purple little bottle.
That's very interesting. They must have all been told to wear purple ties.
Right.
I do know that they have this thing for color. That you wear certain colors in certain situations. For instance, when a high-level New World Order Illuminati woman comes out wearing red, it usually means a sacrifice occurred that day. And so they do have certain. Yeah.
No one said that on the show yet, and that's you're right. I think the only
so they have
person
these little
games
they play.
It is. I'm not laughing about it, but it's actually true. We've had
we've talked about this.
What's his name from James there on here, and he's told us about the same thing. James Robert Wright from
it's all over the place. What cracks me up is when I stand in the grocery line and I hear two little old ladies talking about this stuff, and they look like they're in their 80s. And they're talking about this stuff. I hear people everywhere talking about this stuff. It's all over the web. It's in books. It's in papers. You do get a certain level of the population of people with very mediocre minds simply because they haven't tried to use them, who don't get what's going on. But most, a huge chunk of the people in this world know what's happening. Yeah. And what I'm saying isn't anything new. It's there.
No, it isn't. Perfect. But it's not. It's nothing new. No, you're right. It's absolutely nothing new. But I am glad that we do get people on here that actually to bring it up and talk about it. And we have had people on here on the show before that have actually brought that up before. And
well. It is now 11:54. I am going to get moving, unless anybody else has any particular question.
The only concern I have is the whole Ebola thing, and I really want to stop this. And
well, we're hoping to stop it with the nanosilver. We're trying to get that out. The moment we get information, the New York Times did a big article lambasting us and talking about how ridiculous Rima Labo was, and they didn't. And Ralph wrote a brilliant, including the government study and the Freedom of Information letter, and he sent that to the New York Times and asked them for a retraction, and they absolutely refused, which means the powers that be do not want this out. So the best thing to do, and this is what some people are doing now, is they're putting together a list of things to do for Ebola. One is the nanosilver. One is the sound. Sherry's going to be selling CDs with the sounds on it to deal with it. Now, if it's traveling through the air, you put your CD player on outside and you let it kill it in the air.
I thought you can't do it because the analog versus digital.
That analog is for the body. Things outside of the body can be dealt with the other way, digitally.
Okay.
So this is something that is not. Let's say if this was your liver, you'd have to go analog. Let's say it was your blood, you'd have to go analog. But if it's something coming from outside of the body, you can go digital.
Well, what if you already got
infected? So Sherry will be producing CDs. They'll probably sell very inexpensively, just to cost. And you can play them in order to dissipate. What happens is, when the waveform is played, a virus or a pathogen is surrounded by a form of protein. And what this does is it dissolves the protein, and each one is its own special kind of protein, which is why it's specific frequencies. And it dissolves the protein, and then the white blood cells come in and get it. You dissolve the protein, and the pathogen can't exist. It has to die. So I would play those CDs everywhere.
But that's just for external. What did you do if you're already sick?
If you're already sick, you play the CD by you, and you take the nano silver.
Okay.
And hope for the best. It's not going to work for everyone. If somebody's got a very compromised immune system, possibly nothing will work.
Okay.
But then there's also vitamin C. One of the way the Ebola hits you is it kind of starts as scurvy. It takes out enough vitamin C that you start having scurvy-like symptoms, and then it goes further and it wipes out all the vitamin C, at which point your body can't defend itself and all kinds of terrible things happen.
Right.
And one of the things that people can do is take extremely high potency, like literally every 20 minutes, high potency vitamin C.
You're talking about like
1
or 2 grams, maybe like 8 grams a day.
I'm not sure of the amount. I'd have to get that from Rima, but I know it's very high. And if people are sharing this information, it's going around. I mean, what I'm saying isn't new from me. It's all over the place. I'm hearing it from a lot of people, and they don't trust the government to protect them because the government's only interested in protecting itself. That's what Rand said. She said people operate in their self-interest, and that's what Jefferson said. And they said, so you have to keep government small, or it will just take everything. And you never trust a politician to do more for you than you would do for yourself.
Very true.
Perfect.
All right. Well, I think we're at the end of the show.
Yeah, I think we've ran over.
About 12. Yeah.
But it was very enjoyable, and let's hope that good things happen for a good planet.
Oh, I hope so. I'm gonna Skype Sherry sometime in the next few days and try to get her on the show. So
that would be great.
Sure. Yeah.
She'd be happy to share her information with you.
Yeah, that's
okay.
We're gonna shoot for that like really soon, within the next 2 weeks. Because,
give her a call. She'd be happy to do it.
Awesome.
Yeah,
okay. Have a good evening, guys.
I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Okay. Hey, and you got to be here next week for Borks.
Yep.
Not next week, the week after.
Okay. All right.
Just don't forget, because we got to take care of all the cats and doggies.
Yep, I understand.
Okay. Bye now.
All right, bye.